My name is Carmelita D. Spivey. I am 32 years old, a software engineer in Austin, Texas. I build back-end infrastructure for a fintech company, the kind of dry technical work that keeps apps alive, but never gets posted on anybody's social media with a motivational caption. I have been in Austin since 2019. Make decent money, live in a one-bedroom near East Sar Chavez, and usually keep my life quiet. This whole story is about what happens when you build someone's dream for them and they decide you are only ever the hired help. 2 years ago, I met Chase Parker at Houndstooth Coffee on North Lamar. It was not some sparkling cinematic meat cutter. It was more like we kept seeing each other in the same place every Tuesday and Thursday morning, until pretending not to notice each other started feeling stranger than saying hello. I worked there a couple of days a week to get out of my apartment. He always sat at the corner table by the window with a laptop open, a ring light clipped to the edge, filming beauty content. I learned later that he did product reviews, skincare routines, and brand partnership videos. The first time we actually spoke, he asked if I could watch his equipment while he ran to the bathroom. When he came back, he saw my screen and joked that he wished he understood code because his website kept breaking. "What kind of website?" I asked. "Just my portfolio site," he said. "I do beauty content and I'm trying to build a shop page, but Squarespace hates me." I took a look. 10 minutes later, I handed the laptop back to him after fixing the issue. He stared at the screen, then at me, smiling like I had just performed a minor miracle. "Are you some kind of wizard?" he asked. "Can I buy you coffee?" That would have taken me 3 days. That was how it started. Not dramatic, not intense, just two people occupying the same coffee shop long enough to find a reason to talk. Over the next few weeks, we kept running into each other. He talked about content schedules and audience growth. I talked about broken integrations and production fires at work. Chase had energy. That was the thing about him. He could make an ordinary Tuesday morning feel lit from the inside. About a month later, he asked if I wanted to get dinner. I said yes. We went for tacos and talked for 3 hours. He told me about growing up in Orange County, moving to Austin to find himself, and building his platform from scratch. I told him about growing up in San Antonio and studying computer science at UT, nothing magical, just easy. We clicked. I'm not going to pretend it was some perfect romance, but it was good. He was funny, spontaneous, socially effortless in ways I never really was. He pulled me out more. I introduced him to my friends. He introduced me to his. We did the Austin version of being a couple. Brunch, drinks, weekend drives, all of it. Then about 6 months in, he came to me with an idea. "I want to start my own skincare line," he said one night over tacos. "Nothing huge, just a small brand, clean ingredients, affordable luxury, that kind of thing. I've been thinking about it for years, and I think I'm ready." I asked what he needed. He lit up instantly and pulled out his phone, showing me mood boards, packaging references, formulations, color palettes. He had clearly been dreaming about this for a long time. "The technical side is where I'm weak," he admitted. "Website, payment processing, inventory systems, all of that. But branding, content, storytelling, I know I can do that." He was not wrong. He understood presentation. He knew how to make things feel desirable. He had the audience, or at least the beginning of one. "What's your budget?" I asked. That was when his face changed. "That's the other problem," he said. "I don't really have capital right now. I've got some savings, but not enough to hire a developer and a designer and everybody else. I was thinking maybe we could do this together, like a partnership." I should have gotten everything in writing that night. I should have drafted ownership terms, roles, compensation, decision rights, all of it. But I did not, because I was thinking like a girlfriend, not like a future plaintiff. "Sure," I said. "Let's do it." The next 3 months blurred together. I built the entire infrastructure from scratch. Registered the LLC in my name because Chase's credit score was too low to get anything approved cleanly. Old card debt, some collections, a few financial bruises from his early 20s that he was still carrying around with embarrassment and charm. "It's from when I was younger and stupid," he told me. "I'm fixing it." "Don't worry about it," I said. "We'll put everything under my name for now. Once it's profitable, we can restructure." So that is what I did. I registered the company in Texas with me as sole member, filed the trademark, secured the domain, built the Shopify store, customized the theme, connected the payment gateway, set up the fulfillment workflow with a Dallas partner I researched myself. Order and payment, processed fulfillment, triggered tracking, sent review request, automated, clean, efficient, invisible. Chase handled the creative side. packaging, product descriptions, brand voice content. He was genuinely good at it. The aesthetic was polished, soft, aspirational, the kind of brand that looked expensive even when it was not. 3 weeks before launch, he started teasing it online. Close-up shots, hints, packaging details. His followers loved it. By launch day, we had about 200 pre-orders. That night, he looked at the order dashboard and smiled at me, like we had just built something neither of us fully understood yet. "We did it," he said. "You did it," I told him. "I just built the plumbing." He kissed me. For a little while, that actually felt true. For the first few months, it really did feel like we were a team. Chase filmed content, went live, answered comments, built excitement. I watched conversion rates, tweaked site performance, optimized the email flows, and managed the inventory planning so we would not run out at the wrong moment and kill our own momentum. He talked to customers. I studied the numbers behind what made them buy. He kept shaping the voice of the brand. I kept the machine alive underneath it. The business grew not in some overnight explosion, but steadily enough to feel real. By month 6, we were doing around $15,000 a month in revenue. By month 9, we had crossed 30. Chase's audience had climbed to almost 40,000 followers. Small beauty blogs were featuring the products. Customers were tagging him in shelf photos and skincare routines. There was genuine buzz, the kind that makes people start saying things like, "founder with a straight face." That was when I noticed the shift. At first, it was subtle. Chase started calling himself the founder and CEO in interviews and captions. Technically, I could understand it. He was the public face. He had come up with the aesthetic, the tone, the market angle. I told myself it was branding language, not betrayal. Every company has a front end and a back end. Not every role needs equal visibility. But then I started noticing that I was disappearing from the story entirely. In one interview with a local beauty blogger, he talked about bootstrapping the company, from nothing, learning e-commerce as he went, figuring out vendor relationships, inventory, customer retention, all of it. I listened from my desk with the strange out-of-body feeling because he was describing my work as if it had happened inside his own hands. Not once did he mention me. When I brought it up, he got defensive immediately. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. "Hi, I'm Chase and my girlfriend built my website." "I'm not asking for a medal," I said. "I'm saying it's weird to tell the story like you did everything yourself." His expression hardened. "I do plenty. I'm the face of this brand. I'm the one creating content every day, managing the audience, building relationships, creating the identity. You built a store, Carmelita. That matters, but it is not the same thing." I let it go, not because he was right, because I could already feel how useless the argument would become if I pushed. He would turn it into a conversation about ego, gratitude, tone, support. He was good at reframing, good at making the visible work feel like the only work that counted. Then, in month 10, he hired a consultant. Her name was Dana Morrison. He met her at a founder meetup downtown and came home talking about her like she had walked in carrying the future growth strategist, brand architect, investment advisor. Her LinkedIn was full of titles that sounded expensive and vague, at the same time professional photos at conferences, posts about disruption and scaling, and market opportunities. I looked her up later and found what I expected. Lots of short-term consulting roles. Lots of claims about strategic guidance, almost nothing concrete about what she had actually built. "Dana thinks we're ready to scale," Chase told me over dinner one night. "She says we should be doing 6 figures a month inside a year." "What's her actual background?" I asked. He waved the question away. "She's worked with a bunch of direct-to-consumer brands. She knows the space." That was the beginning of Dana becoming part of our life. Before that, our monthly business reviews had been informal. Just me and Chase sitting in his apartment, going over the numbers, looking at margins, forecasting inventory, deciding what made sense next. Now Dana sat at those meetings too, talking about customer acquisition cost and lifetime value like she had built the dashboards herself. "You've got solid infrastructure here," she said to me once with a smile that managed to sound both polite and dismissive. "Very functional." Functional. I knew exactly what that word meant coming from someone like her. Useful, unseen, replaceable. Chase started spending more time with Dana. Coffee meetings at Houndstooth. Lunches downtown, drinks at Hotel Bar where people talk about funding rounds with straight faces and no audited numbers. Every meeting was supposedly about strategy, positioning, brand growth, the next phase. I was not stupid. I could see the chemistry building, but I also knew how these things work. Accuse too early, and suddenly, you are not perceptive. You are paranoid. You are not hurt. You are insecure. You become the person who does not understand ambition. So, I said nothing and kept watching. Then came month 11. Chase announced we were doing a 1-year anniversary party for the brand, a real event. Influencers, local press, top customers, a celebration. Dana says it'll be great for PR. He told me a chance to mark the milestone. Okay, I said. What do you need from me? He hesitated just long enough for me to notice. Honestly, Dana's handling most of the logistics. I just need you there. Be supportive. The party was at a trendy event space off South Congress. String lights, signature cocktails, product displays styled within an inch of their life. Around 60 people showed up, influencers I did not know. Beauty editors, a few of Chase's friends. I stood near the bar with a bourbon in my hand and watched him work the room like he had been waiting his whole life for it. Dana never strayed far from his side. About an hour in, Chase clinked his glass and called everyone's attention. I had a bad feeling before he even started speaking. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, Chase said, smiling into a room that already wanted to adore him. A year ago, this brand was just an idea. Now it's a real business, a real community, something I'm incredibly proud of, and I couldn't have done it alone. For 1 second, I actually thought he might do the decent thing. Maybe not tell the truth, but enough of it. Enough to acknowledge the difference between a face and a foundation. Enough to let me leave that room with my dignity intact. Then he turned and looked at Dana. My stomach dropped before he opened his mouth again. I want to introduce you all to Dana Morrison, he said. She's been instrumental in helping this brand grow over the past few months. People clapped politely. Then Chase smiled at her in a way that made the rest of the sentence inevitable. Dana's not just a business advisor. She's become a true partner in every sense of the word. He took her hand. The room shifted, not dramatically, just enough a small surge of energy. Some people started clapping harder. Someone near the front gave a breathy little cheer. A couple of people who knew I was his girlfriend looked confused and glanced in my direction, then quickly away, as if eye contact might make them complicit. Chase kept going. Dana and I are excited to take the brand to the next level, professionally and personally. There it was. Not a private conversation. Not a confession after the event. Not even a decent lie told gently. Just a public unveiling wrapped in branded lighting and soft applause, like my humiliation was one more part of the campaign. I set my drink down and started toward the exit. He caught up with me near the door and grabbed my arm lightly, not hard enough to make a scene, hard enough to stop me. Carmelita, wait. I turned. Up close, I could see the flush in his face. He had been drinking just enough to feel bold, not enough to feel sloppy. Dana was still near the center of the room, smiling at guests like she had just been awarded something she had already decided was hers. I need to say something to you, he said, lowering his voice. The perfume on his jacket smelled like one of the samples from the product line. Our product line. That detail bothered me more than it should have. He leaned in slightly, almost intimate, and said, "You're a good woman, you really are. But you're an IT employee. Carmelita, a back-end developer. You don't understand branding growth positioning. You've been holding me back, and I didn't even realize it until I started working with Dana. She gets it. She's on my level." He squeezed my arm once, almost affectionately. "I hope you understand," he said. "This is business. I need to surround myself with people who can help me build something real." I looked at him for a long moment. It was strange. I did not feel shattered. I did not even feel surprised. I felt something colder, something precise, like I had just reached the final page of a story that had been telegraphing its ending for months. Then I smiled. "Congratulations on the anniversary," I said. "You've built something really impressive, and I meant it." He had built something impressive, just not what he thought. I left. Back at my apartment, I poured myself another bourbon and sat on the couch in silence. I did not cry. That would have been easier, honestly. Crying is motion. Grief has heat. What I felt was colder than grief. It was recognition. I replayed the last year in order. The LLC paperwork, the credit checks, the vendor contracts, the merchant account tied to my name and social security number, the trademark filings, the bank access, the fulfillment agreement, the entire operational spine of the business. Every tedious, invisible thing Chase had never respected because he thought invisibility meant inferiority. Around midnight, he texted, "Can we talk tomorrow when you calm down?" I laughed out loud at that, not because it was funny, because it was perfect. When I calmed down, as if my problem were emotional regulation and not structural ownership, I did not answer. Instead, I opened my laptop and started making a list. Fulfillment Center in Dallas, Shopify merchant settings, business bank account, trademark, council hosting credentials, customer data exports, email platform inventory status, legal contacts. Every boring foundational detail Chase had floated above, like a man standing on a roof insisting the house beneath him was optional. By the time I went to sleep, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next morning, I started making calls. First, I called the Fulfillment Center in Dallas and told them I was terminating our agreement effective immediately. No more outgoing shipments under the account. Put everything on hold. Then I contacted Shopify support and disabled the payment gateway. I did not take the site down. I wanted it visible, beautiful, useless. Then I logged into the business bank account, the one opened under the LLC, with me as sole authorized user, and moved the funds into a separate holding account. After that, I called my lawyer. By 10 o'clock, Chase was blowing up my phone. 17 missed calls, a dozen texts. What did you do? The site isn't working. Carmelita, call me right now. This isn't funny. We have orders to fulfill. Call me. I did not call. Instead, I had my lawyer send an email. It was short, clinical, the kind of message that sounds calm, specifically because it is backed by documentation. Dear Mr. Parker, this letter serves as formal notice regarding the ownership and operation of the skincare company. As you are aware, the LLC is registered in the state of Texas with Carmelita D. Spivey as sole member and managing director. All intellectual property, including the trademark domain registration and business assets, are owned by the LLC. All vendor contracts, merchant processing accounts, and banking relationships are registered under Miss Spivey's name due to credit limitations on your part at the time of business formation. Effective immediately, Miss Spivey is exercising her rights as sole owner to restructure the business. Your services as content creator and brand representative are no longer required. Please direct any questions to counsel. My phone rang 30 seconds after the email went out. I let it go to voicemail. The first message started angry. "Oh, what the hell is this? This is my company, Carmelita. My company. You cannot just do this." The second turned threatening. This is illegal. Do you hear me? I will sue you." The third was softer, almost panicked. "Please call me. We can talk about this. I'm sorry about last night. I was drunk. I didn't mean it like that." I did not call him back. Instead, I spent the next 2 weeks doing what I have always done best, building systems. The first 2 days were mostly noise calls, texts, emails, then more calls from numbers I did not recognize, which I assumed were either Chase borrowing other phones or Dana deciding she was suddenly qualified to negotiate on behalf of a company she had spent 3 months pretending to scale. I ignored all of it and stayed focused on the only thing that mattered: control. Control is not dramatic when you do it right. It is not slamming doors or delivering speeches. It is checking the access layers one by one and making sure every system answers to the person whose name is on the paper. Merchant account, payment processor, vendor agreements, trademark, counsel, email, marketing platform, customer data, backups, fulfillment portal, hosting credentials, tax login, state registration files. Every unsexy detail Chase had spent a year treating like plumbing. Plumbing matters when you want water. On the third day, Dana emailed me directly. The subject line was, "Let's handle this like adults." I almost deleted it unread, but I opened it out of curiosity. The email was exactly what I expected. A lot of calm language wrapped around condescension. She said emotions were running high. She said Chase felt blindsided. She said everyone had contributed to the brand in meaningful ways, and that it would be in everyone's best interest to find an equitable solution. She used phrases like forward-thinking resolution and collaborative transition, which is how people talk when they want to sound expensive, while saying absolutely nothing. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. 10 minutes later, Chase sent a message that was somehow worse because it was honest in the wrong places. "You're humiliating me. Not you're destroying the business. Not what about the customers. Not can we find a path forward. Just you're humiliating me." That was when I understood something important. He had never seen the company as a structure. He saw it as an extension of his identity, the public face, the praise, the image of being a founder. That was what mattered to him. The machinery underneath was only relevant when it obeyed him quietly. I did not respond. Instead, I started shopping the business. Not emotionally strategically. I reached out to 3 brands in the clean beauty space, all larger than ours, all with existing supply chains, and enough operational maturity to understand exactly what I was offering. I did not pitch them a love story or a lifestyle. I pitched a functioning e-commerce system with verified customers, proven demand, workable margins, automation already built, and a clean digital backbone they could absorb into a larger portfolio. No founder drama, no consultant theater, just infrastructure and usable data. 2 of them were interested quickly, one moved faster than I expected. The brand was called Pure Earth. They did not care much about Chase's face or his little origin story. They wanted the customer list, the sales behavior, the operational flow, the proof of market fit, and the speed of acquiring something already built instead of building from zero. That was the beauty of dealing with adults. They were not dazzled by aesthetics. They knew exactly where the value lived. We negotiated for a week. During that week, Chase's messages evolved through the full grief cycle of a man who thought charisma counted as equity. Anger first, then threats, then bargaining. Come on, Carmelita. We both know this isn't fair. You're doing this because you're hurt. You can't seriously think you built this alone. Then let's split it. Let's work out a buyout. Tell me what number you want. Then finally, please don't destroy everything because of one mistake. One mistake. That was the phrase that stayed with me. Not the public humiliation, not the months of rewriting the story, not introducing another woman as his partner while I stood 10 feet away after financing his dream from the beginning. Just one mistake. As if the betrayal had been a single loose step instead of a staircase. Dana tried once more through a lawyer-like email full of strategic language and implied urgency. By then, it did not matter. Pure Earth had already finished due diligence. They reviewed the LLC documents, trademark, ownership, merchant records, vendor contracts, banking structure, and platform credentials. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. The thing Chase called his company belonged to me. Legally, operationally, completely. We signed the sale agreement for $180,000. Not life-changing money, but clean money. Good money, exit money. When the wire hit, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the number for a while. Not because I felt triumphant, because I felt released. There is a difference between revenge and removal. Revenge wants the other person to suffer. Removal just means you no longer let them stand inside your systems. Pure Earth announced the acquisition on Instagram 3 days later. That was how Chase found out. He called 8 times in under 20 minutes. Then emailed, then texted paragraphs so long they had that breathless, unraveling quality people get when reality is refusing to negotiate. You sold it. You actually sold it. How could you do this without telling me that was my brand, my audience, my work? Dana disappeared almost immediately after that, which did not surprise me. Women like Dana always know how to stand very close to momentum and call it leadership. But when the floor drops, they vanish before the dust settles. I heard later that she had no investor network worth mentioning, no actual path to scale, and more confidence than competence. Chase apparently had mistaken her vocabulary for infrastructure. A week after the sale, he sent one last email, long, emotional, carefully written in the language of betrayal. He said I had stolen his dream. He said the brand existed because of his creativity, his vision, his relationship with the audience. He said I had treated him like he was disposable, like he had only ever been some contractor working under my authority. That line almost made me smile because there it was. The whole story flipped without him even realizing it. He had spent months reducing me to technical labor to support to background utility. And now that the paperwork was being read correctly, suddenly being treated like just the hired help felt unbearable. I did not answer that email either, but I thought about it, about how easy it is to confuse the front end with the foundation. How social media trains people to believe that visibility is the same thing as ownership. How saying founder into a microphone can feel true enough that you stop noticing whose name is actually on the bank account, the contracts, the registration, the risk. Chase had done real work. I will never lie about that. He built the visual identity. He shaped the tone. He attracted people. That mattered. But he forgot that none of it functioned by magic. Someone had to build the database structure, the workflows manage the cache, negotiate the vendor's own, the liability, keep the machine alive after the ring light turned off. He forgot because I made it look easy. That was my mistake. I heard through mutual friends that Chase unraveled fast after the sale. Not in some cinematic overnight collapse. More like the slow humiliation of a person realizing too late that confidence is not collateral. Once the acquisition announcement went live, he apparently spent a week telling anyone who would listen that there had been a misunderstanding, that lawyers were involved, that the brand had been taken out from under him in a legal technicality. I'm sure that version of the story sounded compelling if you did not know what paperwork was. But paperwork is where reality lives. By then, Dana had already drifted out of the picture. From what I heard, she stayed just long enough to confirm there was no money left to leverage, no business left to advise on, and no glamorous scaling narrative left to attach herself to. The woman who had spoken so confidently about growth strategy and brand elevation vanished the second the operational body disappeared. Chase had confused proximity to polish with actual competence, and by the time he figured that out, there was nothing left for either of them to stand on. He sent one final email about 2 weeks after the sale. This one was less angry, less theatrical. That was almost worse. Anger can still protect a person's pride. This email sounded stripped down. He said he had made mistakes. He said Donna had gotten in his head. He said the pressure of growth had changed him, and that somewhere along the way, he had started believing his own press. That phrase stayed with me. Believing his own press. It was probably the most honest thing he had said in months. Then he wrote that he hoped I understood he had never meant to make me feel small. I stared at that sentence for a long time, because that was the thing. He had not needed to mean it. Intent is overrated in situations like this. You can diminish someone perfectly well without ever saying the words out loud. You do it by leaving them out of interviews, by retelling shared labor as individual brilliance, by speaking over the work that keeps your dream alive because it is not glamorous enough to mention, by introducing another woman as your partner while the woman who built your foundation is still standing in the room. I never answered him. There was nothing left to say that would have changed what had already become true. Pure Earth sent me a thank you package after the deal closed. A gift basket full of products and a handwritten note from one of their executives telling me they appreciated how organized the transition had been. I gave most of the skincare to my sister, kept the note, not because it mattered emotionally, but because I found it darkly funny that the only people who fully respected my role in the company were the ones who bought it from me. I used some of the money to buy myself a new mountain bike. That detail usually throws people when I tell this story, but it matters to me. There is something deeply satisfying about spending exit money on motion on your own lungs, your own balance, your own strength. I took a trip to Colorado too, started therapy, which, if I am being honest, probably should have happened long before the anniversary party and the acquisition. Betrayal sharpens some lessons, but it also reveals older patterns. One of mine was how easily I mistook being useful for being loved. Austin stayed Austin through all of it. Loud, expensive, self-conscious, permanently midway through becoming something else. The coffee shop stayed full. The founder types kept floating around downtown talking about disruption and authenticity and seed funding. Like those words meant anything without discipline. My job stayed the same. Back-end infrastructure, boring on paper, essential in practice. I went back to work on Monday after the acquisition cleared and spent half the day debugging a payment issue nobody outside engineering would ever know existed. It felt strangely comforting. People still ask me if I feel bad about what I did. No. I regret that it had to happen. That is different. I built a company with my name, my credit, my labor, and my systems because someone I loved asked me to believe we were a team. When that same person decided I was just the technical woman in the background, someone useful but not visionary, I did what any sane person should do with an asset they actually own. I protected it. Then I sold it. That is not cruelty. That is not revenge. That is business. If there is one thing I learned from the whole experience, it is that infrastructure does not beg to be noticed. It just determines what survives. Pretty branding matters. Story matters. Audience matters. A polished founder with good lighting and emotional captions can matter too. But none of those things mean anything if the foundation belongs to someone else, and that someone finally decides she is done being invisible. Chase learned that lesson the hard way. So did I. These days, if someone asks me to help build a business, I send a contract first. Clear ownership, defined compensation. Explicit roles, decision-making rights. Exit terms. Nothing vague, nothing romantic. Nothing based on vibes and trust and mutual excitement over tacos. I am not a girlfriend who codes anymore. I am a developer who knows that sometimes the most important thing you build is not the product. It is the legal boundary around your contribution. Maybe that is the real skill I came out of this with. Knowing the difference between supporting someone's dream and letting yourself become the structure they stand on while they pretend they got there alone. I do not regret the sale. I regret the illusion that made the sale necessary. The last time I checked Pure Earth was doing well with the customer list and the infrastructure I handed over. Good for them. They understood what they were buying. As for Chase and Dana and that whole polished little ecosystem of ambition, I do not keep tabs anymore. That is the beauty of a clean exit. Once you are out, you are out. I am building different things now, smaller, quieter, more intentional, less performance, more foundation. The bourbon tastes better. The mountain biking is excellent. Austin is still full of people calling themselves founders before they know how taxes work, and I sleep just fine knowing that the next time somebody asks me to help build their dream, I will know exactly what question to ask first. Who owns the LLC? Because, as it turns out, that is the only question that really matters.